Big Hollywood Countdown. Hi, I'm Larissa Harrapin. In this episode, we're looking at all those monsters, living and dead, that send shivers up our spine. Our list includes classic, modern, and human monsters that terrify us. So turn out the lights, sit back, and be prepared to come face to face with the things that go bump in the night. What would a monster special be without the classics? So kicking off our countdown at number 10, we take a look at the strange and bizarre that have crept out of the screen and onto our list. In 1958, the Blob was born. Whatever this growing mass of terror was, it didn't stop growing, and it had Steve McQueen and a whole town in fear. Another remake of The Deadly Jelly was made 30 years later, and there's even talk of another remake. The Blob is simply unstoppable. In 1978, a film called Attack of the Killer Tomatoes took over the big screen. Who would have thought veggies could be so dangerous? John Carpenter had a tiny fishing town petrified, and the genre's favorite actresses run off their feet in fear of being swept up by the fog and what evil was hidden inside. It's amazing how frightening the unknown can be, because over 20 years later, a remake of the classic was made, this time starring a trio of fresh blood. A couple years later, Carpenter was at it again. This time, his monster was a little more ambiguous. The Thing was a shapeshifter that molded into the person set to die. Kurt Russell played one of the people out to stop it. These creatures prove that horror can take on any form, and audiences are pretty open-minded when it comes to what scares them, as long as it scares them. What's more frightening than something that can't be killed? Coming in at number 9 is a group of undead spirits that aren't ready to settle down quite yet. In 1968's Rosemary's Baby, Mia Farrow is pregnant with what appears to be Satan's child.
Satan is his father, not Guy. He came up from hell and begat a son of mortal woman. Hail Satan!
5 years later, however, a new film came on the scene. A screen adaptation of a novel which gained numerous Oscar attention for almost all involved. Not only did the critics like it, but The Exorcist had audiences scared for decades to come. Demonic possession was an evil like no one had seen before. Another successful screen adaptation, this one, based on fact, was 1979's Amityville Horror, a story about evil spirits living in a house with a horrible past. The film was remade years later, and although not as successful as the original, it scared audiences all the same.
Jody's, what's the word? Dead?
So far, we've seen the possession of the unborn, a child, and a house. In Poltergeist, the evils within didn't want to possess the body of the child. They wanted to possess the child herself. Snow on a television set would be looked at as creepy from here on in.
Who's with you, baby?
Who's with you?
God.
The Ring is a modern remake of a Japanese story about a videotape that is sure to cause pain if viewed. Naomi Watts' character investigates the source of the story, which is a tangled history of a family with a lot of problems. The Japanese are masters of fright. The Grudge was another modern version of a house with an unsettled curse. This one involving a young child and a lot of rage.
What are you doing here?
Monsters don't have to come in living, breathing form. In fact, it's sometimes what we can't see that is the most frightening. Monsters living on Earth are fear-provoking enough, but at number 8 on our list, we've got to deal with creatures from another planet altogether. For decades, we've been afraid of being invaded. In 1951, the day the Earth stood still, an alien comes down from outer space to warn Earthlings that we must live in peace or we will be destroyed.
I came here to give you these facts. But if you threaten to extend your violence, this Earth of yours will be reduced to a burned-out cinder.
War of the Worlds had the same idea, except this time, there was no warning. It was a full-on invasion. The remake starring Tom Cruise had the advantage of having the special effects to make these monsters from outer space convincing. It was full-on war between Sigourney Weaver and what will go down in history as one of the best battles between human and extraterrestrial in the film Alien. The image of the creatures from outer space are a far cry from the little green men with antenna ears. What would a creepy countdown be without the mention of this spine-chilling author? At number 7 is writer Stephen King, whose creations are in a category all their own. Despite the opinion of some critics that consider King's writing to be fast food style, he's still considered one of the most successful writers in American history. King's first screen adaptation of his novel Carrie is considered the film that made King's career. The story is about a brutally shy girl with telekinetic powers who doesn't fit in with her peers. Everything comes to a head at the school prom, which involves a very young John Travolta and a bucket of pig's blood. From teenage angst to a possessed 58 Plymouth Fury, Stephen King is a success at making anything creepy, including an adorable Drew Barrymore in 1984's Firestarter.
No, don't. No, don't!
In Children of the Corn, King brings an adult's worst nightmare to life when he creates a town of wicked children whose goal is to kill all adults. So far, King's managed to bring out the worst in teens, cars, and kids. It's no surprise that he would somehow manage to make the task of quitting smoking a deadly experience. Cat's Eye is a trilogy that'll keep you up at night. In 1996, King puts a twist on the cliche starting to death in Thinner, a story about a lawyer who runs into a gypsy on the road, literally, and has a curse put on him that causes him to disappear. No one is sleeping well at night now that Stephen King's novels have come to life on the big screen, but for some reason, we're not complaining. Welcome back to the Big Hollywood Countdown. Now, before we check out our number 6 movie monster, here's a recap of what you've missed. 10. Classic creatures. 9. Spirits and possessions. 8. Creatures from outer space. 7. Stephen King's creations. Coming in at number 6 are a group of Hollywood's creations. Cold-hearted killers and slashers. 1974 was a good year for horror flicks. The Canadian film Black Christmas was not a huge commercial success, but it had a young Andrea Martin and Margot Kidder afraid of the dark. The film is about a group of sorority sisters who are being terrorized by a deranged stranger.
Who is it?
That same year, a cult classic was born. Texas Chainsaw Massacre was about a group of hippies who picked up a disturbed hitchhiker who's linked to an even more disturbed family. The film spawned a remake over 20 years later, which was pretty good, although it didn't have the gritty look of the original. It had all the screams and had Leatherface in all his glory. The film that launched Jamie Lee Curtis's career is a legendary slasher flick about a psychotic murderer who escapes from a mental institution and is now on a mindless rampage to kill. Halloween will never be the same thanks to Michael Myers. The name Jason took on a whole different meaning during the 80s due to an immensely popular film that came out, a film that spawned a slew of sequels. Friday the 13th. Jason tears around Camp Crystal Lake campground without mercy.
Hi. What are you doing out in this mess?
There was a new monster in the neighborhood. He had knives for fingers and a disfigured face. Freddy Krueger had the residents on Elm Street tossing and turning in their sleep.
Come to Freddy.
With all these slashers on the loose, nowhere is safe, including your own bedroom. It's no surprise at the middle of the list at number 5 is an entire genre that stemmed from the slashers of yesteryear. A new generation of killers that are bringing big bucks into the box office and have teens screaming in fear. Urban legend is a handful of scary tales all rolled into one. A college campus is stricken by a serial killer who's popping off people one by one using different techniques. The killer in this teen flick is not who you'd expect. The 1996 flick Scream, starring Neve Campbell and a cast of Hollywood up-and-comers, was Wes Craven's attempt at poking fun slasher flicks.
You like scary movies?
Uh-huh.
You never told me your name.
Why do you want to know my name?
I want to know who I'm looking at.
A year later, It Girl at the time, Jennifer Love Hewitt, was the one running from danger. She's one of a group of hot teens that is confronted by a disguised psycho with a mean swing. In Joyride, the hot female lead was replaced by a hot male lead. Paul Walker and pals play a trick on a truck driver during a road trip and are chased by the deranged driver who's out to show them a lesson.
He's out there! He's watching us!
The killer in House of Wax is harassing Alicia Cuthbert and her hunky co-stars, who are trying to figure out why the town they stumbled upon is deserted, except for a bunch of wax figures. The lesson learned here is if you mix hot teens, an eerie setting, and then you throw in a psychopath, well, you've got a surefire winner. You've heard the legend of the Black Widow. Well, crawling into the number 4 spot are a group of women you don't want to mess with.
Do I look like somebody who tried to trick you?
In 1990, Stephen King created the character of Annie Wilkes, played by Kathy Bates, an obsessed fan of famous author Paul Sheldon. Through a series of unfortunate events, the wounded author falls prey to the hands of the unstable and obsessed fan who wants more than just his autograph.
You've been out of your room.
No, I haven't. I don't know what you're talking about.
Is this what you're looking for?
Watch out for beautiful creatures. That's the message the sci-fi thriller Species sends you. The gorgeous Natasha Henstridge is not who she appears to be. A message to all men out there: if she appears too good to be true, she probably is. In the film The Craft, there's a handful of females you don't want to rub the wrong way. The little black magic, they're putting curses on those that do them wrong.
Ancient wise one, teach us thy ways. We summon and stir thee.
Bedazzled has Elizabeth Hurley working her magic too on a love-struck Brendan Fraser. But Hurley isn't just a witch. She's the devil herself.
I am the devil. Satan, Lucifer, Beelzebub, the Prince of Darkness. Well, the Princess of Darkness, anyway.
If you've heard the term beware a woman scorned, then you'll understand the meaning behind the next few vixens. In What Lies Beneath, Michelle Pfeiffer discovers her husband has a deep, dark secret. Erica Christensen plays a jealous girl out to get back at a cheating boyfriend in Swim Fan. And Monster shows another side to Charlize Theron. She transforms herself completely and plays the role of a real-life serial-killing prostitute who's on a warpath to get back at the men who've hurt her.
What you got?
In Terminator 3, the gorgeous Christiana Loken puts a feminine spin on the Terminator and gives Arnie a run for his money. Our list of femme fatales proves once more that evil can take on any shape or form. Beware the attractive exterior, because the interior may be ugly. Well, we're down to our top 3 movie monsters in our big Hollywood countdown. But first, here's a recap of who we've seen so far. 10. Classic creatures. 9. Spirits and possessions. 8. Creatures from outer space. 7. Stephen King's creations. 6. Slashers. 5. Teen screams. 4. Black widows. Creeping in at number 3 are the original monster legends that have been floating around for centuries, spawning varied interpretations, all of them just as daunting as the first. In 1922, the Dracula legend was brought to life on the big screen in Nosferatu. From that flick derived numerous variations of Dracula in the years to come, including Bram Stoker's Dracula, directed by Francis Ford Coppola, and Joel Schumacher's updated vision, the cult flick, The Lost Boys. Well, sometimes what you can't see is the most frightening of all. Mummies have really evolved on screen to computer-generated giants of destruction.
I did not think so.
How do you kill the undead? Well, zombies have always been at the top of the horror genre simply because they are unstoppable. They have a thirst for human flesh, and there's never just one of them. 1968's Night of the Living Dead was remade in 1990. Dawn of the Dead had a 1978 version and a 2004 version as well.
Why are they coming here?
Maybe they're coming for us.
A comedic version of these pesky flesh eaters was also made.
She wants a cuddle. Listen, I'm serious. I've just come out of a relationship. And hold it down.
And if you haven't had your share of The Walking Dead quite yet, well, there's 28 Days Later, about a man who wakes up from a coma only to find the streets of London swarming with zombies.
They're dead. And you're gonna be next.
Surprisingly, these furry beasts don't travel in packs. Stephen King's Silver Bullet was a twist on the werewolf legend. And so was Ginger Snaps, where the canine killers were female. Wes Craven raised more laughs than screams with Cursed.
What was that? My dog. What kind of dog do you have?
Vampires, zombies, werewolves, whatever the monster, Hollywood loves the legends and loves bringing them to life on screen over and over again. Landing at the number 2 spot are a group of creatures that may come as a surprise. We went wild finding these pigs, deep into the jungles, dark caves, water, even your own backyard. There are horrors lurking where you least expect them.
I just have this feeling everything's totally safe.
King Kong is probably the most frightening beast on screen. A classic tale about a giant gorilla in heat. Steven Spielberg's hit Jaws had audiences afraid to go into the water. Steven Spielberg created more big screams with the screen adaptation of the novel Jurassic Park, an adventure about a modern prehistoric world uncovered, a man-made theme park whose fences can't keep nature in.
This is how you make dinosaurs?
This is how you play God.
Speaking of dinosaurs, the Japanese were the inventors of the 400-foot monster reptile, Godzilla. But like all good ideas, Hollywood was quick to make their version of the flick. The big screen took the term, the bigger the better, to heart. And mediocre films like Anaconda about a giant snake and Lake Placid were made.
Maybe he swam back out. Maybe not.
Leave it to Stephen King to make monsters out of your household pets. The 1983 screen adaptation of his book transformed a family St. Bernard into a rabid beast. The war between nature and man will continue on screen and off, but like in nature, only the strong will survive. Coming in at number 1 are not the monsters from legendary folklore. They're not the creations out of Hollywood either. They are the deranged psychos living among us, walking the streets in search of victims. The definition of a psychopath is a mentally ill or unstable person. Alfred Hitchcock captured this perfectly in the 1960 screen adaptation, Psycho, which was remade almost 40 years later. Whether it's the brilliant original or the bad remake, it was the character of Norman Bates that was the story's success. Bates was a quiet young man with a bizarre relationship with his mother. This seemingly harmless introvert turns out to be a cold-hearted killer who likes playing dress-up.
The bathroom.
Stanley Kubrick's The Shining was dubbed a horror masterpiece by most critics in the early 80s. Since then, it's become a classic. The story is about a man named Jack Torrance who's hired as a caretaker of a secluded hotel in the Colorado mountains. He moves to the hotel off-season with his wife and clairvoyant child. As the story unravels, we learn that the evil spirit of a madman who killed his family in the hotel is slowly making Jack go crazy.
Here's Johnny!
Another film adaptation of a great story is 1991's Silence of the Lambs, where the talented Sir Anthony Hopkins sinks his teeth into the role of Hannibal Lecter so vigorously, he won an Oscar for that role. Hannibal the Cannibal, as he was dubbed, is a flesh-eating monster who was imprisoned for committing horrific crimes and who is forced to help a naive Jodie Foster break into the psyche of a madman.
You know who he is, don't you? Tell me who decapitated your patient, Doctor.
All good things to those who wait.
The 1995 thriller Seven was based around a deranged serial killer who justifies his crimes as retribution for the world's ignorance of the 7 deadly sins. The sociopath in question is played by Kevin Spacey, whose smugness and guilt-free demeanor make his crimes that much more disturbing.
You will accept my apology, won't you? I feel like saying more, but I don't want to ruin the surprise.
American Psycho is a modern-day variation of the reclusive Psycho from yesterday. This contemporary killer appears to have it all on the outside and isn't society's outcast. Instead, this updated murderer is handsome, successful, and deadly. What makes this assassin most dangerous is he's one of us.
When I see a pretty girl walking down the street, I think two things. One part of me wants to be real nice and sweet and treat her right.
And what the other part think?
What her head would look like on a stick.
From creatures to aliens to the Walking Dead, votes are in, and the thing that makes our skin crawl the most isn't the monster in our closet, but rather the monster on the street. And that's it for this episode of Big Hollywood Countdown. I'm Larissa Harrapin. Thanks for watching.
Swing the bat. Put the bat down, Wendy.
Stop it!
Wendy, give me the bat.
Wait! Stay away!
Give me the bat.
Stop it!
Give me the bat.
Stay away!
Stop swinging the bat.
Wait, stop!
Give me the bat, Wendy.
Stay away!
Wendy.
Stay!
Give me the bat. Give me the bat.